afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Michelle Pierre-Farid, and I am the National Senior Executive Director for Alumni Impact. Welcome to our Alumni Town Hall for 2022. New Leaders is so excited to be partnering with Goldman Sachs today to bring you reaching new heights and giving, taking, sharing, and making space. So you might be asking, what are we going to be doing today? Well, we're going to have a welcome and learn a little bit about new leaders. We know that we have a range of people joining us today. And then we're going to have an illustrious panel who will be speaking to our theme. And our theme really came from our alum. You spoke to us, you sent us messages about going into this school year, still in the middle of a pandemic, a lot going on, and people feeling nervous and stressed. And so thinking about how do we create that space for people to be able to share their thoughts, and how do we own the space as we're leading during these times. So we have a great panel who will be able to speak to these things and help us think about what we can do as we go into the 2022-2023 school year. Of course, we will also be having information about the resources that we provide you throughout the continuum of your career. And of course, we had to have a little bit of fun. We have a comedian, and she's actually a teacher, so she will be touching on some of those educational issues in a funny way. So don't leave, join us for our comedy show at the end. But I couldn't do the greetings without having one of our alum to do it with me. So Mitch Center will be talking and bringing greetings as well. Mitch.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks so much for the invite. Hello, fellow new leaders. My name is Mitch Center. I work as a coach and consultant with leaders across the country. Special shout out to New York City Cohort 5 folks, if any of you are out there. Yeah, I'm excited to be here as an alumni and as a partner who offers some programs with alumni. This is a great evening put together. We have a wonderful panel. We're going to hear about some new programs and partnerships. And I'm just grateful to be part of the new leaders community. They continue to support us wherever we're at in our careers. So see lots of you out here, dozens and dozens of you on the call. So welcome, welcome. Should be a great night. Please stick around till the end. I think we could all use some laughter in our lives these days. And to have an educator comedian is just an extra sort of cherry on top. So thanks for the invite, Michelle.
Thank you, Mitch, and thanks for being a great member of our alumni team. I had the honor and privilege of working with Gene Desravines as the CEO of New Leaders. He has over 25 years of professional leadership. Before joining New Leaders, he held a number of leadership roles at New York City Department of Education in the Bloomberg administration. He currently serves on the board of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, KinderCare, America Achieves, and St. Francis College in Brooklyn. He is a co-founder of Innovation for Equity and is a co-chair of Black Voices for Black Justice Fund. Gene also served as a member of the Governor Cuomo's Education Reform Commission and was named to Forbes Impact 30, recognizing the world's leading social entrepreneurs from across the country. He has co-authored 2 books, Breakthrough Principles and The School Leadership Playbook. It is my honor and privilege to have Gene to moderate and speak on New Leaders. Gene?
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for also making this possible. Thank you to all of our alumni and our panelists for joining. I would like to start by underscoring a point that all of us know. Leaders like you, results-oriented, transformative leaders, move mountains. This is true in every sector. Education is no different. We know leadership changes everything. This is the work that you, our alumni, and everyone at New Leaders has been doing for the past 20 years. We are moving mountains on behalf of children. We know our alumni are the strongest, most effective leaders in the field, period. We've had multiple independent evaluations that's shown that schools led by new leaders, principals, outperform their peers in math, in reading, higher graduation rates. Fundamentally, we are changing the trajectory of our kids, their families, and their communities by making a quality K-12 education accessible. And here's what's exciting. We're doing this work at scale. We have over 8,000 leaders serving 41 states. 1/3 of the largest urban school districts in the country partner with us. In Chicago, for example, we're achieving critical mass. Chicago is the third largest school district in America. Today, over 20% of all principals are new leaders alum. Chicago is also the fastest improving school district in the country. That is not a coincidence. You've made that possible. Here's another way to look at our impact. As I stated earlier, we're developing over 8,000 leaders to date. We've impacted over 2 million students on an annual basis. Just to give you a sense of perspective, if we were a school district, we would be the largest school district in the country. 2/3 of our leaders are leaders of color. 49% of our leaders are women of color. And here's the reason why that is so important. While the majority of our students are students of color, less than 20% of all teachers and less than 20% of all principals are principals of color. And yet we know representative leadership matters. When kids see themselves and the leaders and teachers around them, it allows them to dream bolder. Given the challenges of the past 2 years and the increasing complexity and demand of all of your work, we've evolved as an organization. We've evolved so we can provide you with support across the continuum, from teacher leaders to sit-in principals to principal supervisors, and we're also providing individual executive coaching. We know and we understand the challenges of your work, particularly in this moment in time. There's one program that I want to highlight, our fellowship, which is designed to train the next generation of equity-focused leaders who are proximate and who better reflect the communities they serve. The reason why that is so important is because research shows that all students, but particularly students of color, benefit from having leaders of color. That proximity is key because leaders of color set higher expectations and they create a sense of belonging. If as a country, if we are serious about transforming public education, representation has to be at the forefront. Our vision as an organization is crystal clear. We want to scale the amazing work we've done over the past 20 years to be the largest provider of equity-focused leaders in the country. We've partnered with Morehouse and Clark Atlanta University to create a fully online principal certification and master's program for aspiring leaders across the country. I'm excited to share that our first cohort of fellows is well on its way, and our first graduation class will be March 2023. To make this work possible, we need philosophically aligned partners. We have found such a partner in Goldman Sachs and their 1 Million Black Women Initiative. Before I introduce Dina, I want to say a few words about Goldman Sachs. After the murder of George Floyd, a number of companies talked about racial justice. Goldman Sachs went beyond the rhetoric. They took action. Their commitment of $10 billion in investment capital and $100 million in philanthropic capital towards developing Black women leaders is a demonstration of concrete action toward closing the wealth gap. They're embodying what it means to be a true ally in this work. Here to talk about the 1 Million Black Women Initiative is a partner and someone I consider a friend, Dina Powell McCormick.
Well, what an honor it is to be with you today and the amazing team you have. And what a particular honor it is to join what I would consider the heroes across the country that you are investing in. As a mother, I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for caring for our children. Thank you for investing your lives in the most important asset this country has. And these are these souls that we are teaching and investing in the schools that you all are leading. Gene is such a dynamo, and I had the privilege of meeting him about a year ago. And I've had a few people who were really supporting him. And it just made so much sense to me that what New Leaders is doing is one of the greatest investments for Goldman Sachs. We know very well that everything that really matters to a child and their future is the kind of education they receive. But leadership in schools, just like leadership in the private sector in the company where I work, is so unbelievably critical. And so you all, I've read many of your backgrounds and bios, and I just have to say, you could do anything you want. You could come to Goldman Sachs. You may not want to, but the fact that you are choosing to be leaders in education in our country is truly, truly the best kind of service. And I just want to tell you how honored I am to be with you, with a hero of mine and my mentor, Dr. Ruth Simmons, who was on the Goldman Sachs board for a decade when we first built some of our philanthropic work. And she is truly one of the leaders that I admire most in the world. And I'm so grateful for her mentorship.
Thank you so much, Dina, for those remarks. I would like you to give a brief overview of the 1 Million Black Women Initiative and what was the impetus for developing it and where is it now?
As you said, you know, we as a firm were very focused on how we could really make a difference. And it really looked at some of our programming that we had built years ago that we started, as I said, under Dr. Simmons' leadership, which is how do you allocate capital to really transform communities and make a difference. And we started a long time ago with a program called 10,000 Women, which was the largest ever investment in the economic empowerment of women globally, particularly female entrepreneurs. And we really had a focus on education, capital, mentoring, and networking. And that program really took off. And we've reached over 70,000 women around the world who are then job creators, independently, economically independent. And of course, there's a famous saying that I always think about Hafiz Ibrahim, a Nobel laureate, once said, when you educate a woman, you create a nation. And so we began to see that when you invest in female entrepreneurs, communities thrive and change because those entrepreneurs really pay it back, and they're a multiplier effect. And years later, we then started a version called 10,000 Small Businesses, where, Jean, you'll be happy to know we let men in to that program. And that program was really focused on job creation and growth for underserved and particularly minority-owned businesses. But when we really looked to racial justice programs, income inequality programs, we realized that women, particularly Black women, are not only at the center of community, and as much as you can invest in them is the return that you're going to get for the whole community. But COVID showed us that they were particularly impacted in almost every sphere of their life. And so what we did was we called people that we admired the most to help us build it, like Dr. Simmons, Rosalind Brewer, Secretary Condoleezza Rice, Darren Walker, Mark Morial, and the ones that my daughters told me that she didn't believe I'd actually met, Steph and Aisha Curry. And they have all been so unbelievably involved in building out, as you said, an investment program. To date, we have invested $1 billion in balance sheet capital to address opportunity gaps that face Black women. And we are just so delighted that we also have grant programs, philanthropic capital to do the same. I know we're going to hear from Ayris from Walker's Legacy. She is one of our greatest investments, an extraordinary program that I know you're going to hear about. But it's women and programs from maternal health care, housing, education, which we'll hear from Dr. Simmons on, and research and data that today doesn't exist. There are not enough case studies on Black women in business. And so we're very proud to say that we found the best investment, the best multiplier effect, the best ROI, which is the investment in Black women in America.
Wow, that's amazing, Dina. And as I shared, that level of commitment and investment from not only time, but resources is a testament to the commitment of Goldman. So just want to acknowledge and thank you for leading this work.
Thank you. It's an honor to work with you, and to launch our partnership officially today is very exciting for us.
The feeling is absolutely mutual. We will bring in a couple of our panelists. We will start with Dr. Simmons, who, as you've pointed out, has been so committed to this work for so long, has really been a pillar in the Black community. Dr. Simmons, would love for you to share, from your perspective, what does taking up and giving up space mean to you as a leader? For yourself and for others, how do you think about mentoring and grooming the next generation of leaders?
Let me say how delighted I am to be with you, and how honored I am to be a part of 1 million Black women as an initiative of Goldman Sachs. Dina has done so much to advocate for bringing people in from the margin to participate powerfully in the global economy. And I want to thank her for all the work that she does. It's so heartfelt on her part. I guess, at my age, the thing that I think about a good deal is how much I was helped as a young person, first of all, by teachers. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood in Houston. And the only outlet that I had as a young person growing up was really school. The only advocates I had as a young person growing up were teachers, and they advocated for me in an extraordinary way, pushing me to go to college. And helped me understand that in spite of what everything around me was telling me, and again, I grew up in deep segregation, where everything said I was worthless, everything said I was stupid and could never have a life. And so imagine people who intervened and created a space for me to help me understand my worth as a human being. So space to me in my work with students is all about creating that space for them and for the people that I work with, creating that space for them. So often, because of societal factors, because of political circumstances, people grow up or simply come to have doubts about themselves, doubts about who they are and the worth of who they are. I think it's frankly very difficult to succeed if you don't have space to grow as a human being and to come into your own and to treasure the things about you that are unique and important to the world. So as a young person, I learned that I brought value to the world just by being who I was. So that's what's important for us all to feel in the workplace, in the schoolroom, wherever we are, that we bring value to the world by virtue of who we are, not by virtue of how much money we have, not by virtue of where we go to school, not by virtue of any of those circumstances, but just by virtue of who we are as a unique human being.
Quick point to our alumni. I'll ask the first few questions. If you have any pressing questions, please put them in the chat and we'll be able to make sure that your voices are heard as well. Ayris, I actually want to now shift to you. Dina shared that you are an exemplar in terms of the partnership that's been formed with Goldman, and would love for you to share a bit more about how that partnership came to fruition and the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. So I must lead with one, thank you so much for having me. I'm coming as I would say, an ally today of the organization that I represented, which was Walker's Legacy, which was and still is a great partner with Goldman Sachs. And, you know, I am in a new capacity, so I have to be transparent. I'm no longer speaking on behalf of Walker's Legacy as their CEO. However, just looking at partnerships collectively, right? I think when we think about what a partnership looks like and what it means and what it should represent, it's that, you know, you're not coming to the table with things already baked, right? That you've done some listening and that you've done some assessment and that you're coming to the table in hopes of both bringing some level of value, right? To create a bigger impact and create new solutions and innovation. And so as I think about, you know, 1 million Black women, and not even just Walker's Legacy, but the partnerships and the approach that Goldman took was remarkable, because Goldman could have went out there in and of themselves with all of their resources, all of their talent, and said, here's what we're going to do. But instead, they looked across the country and said, who are the strongest organizations representing women, Black women, in all of these different facets, from entrepreneurship, you know, health, housing, education, and how do we create an opportunity to give them an additional voice and platform? And if I think of anything that I really, really value with regards to that partnership between Walker's Legacy and with Goldman Sachs, it was that it was not a one-time thing and it was not transactional, and that they really took intentionality to give us a platform to be a voice. And then taking the information that we were able to capture from our constituents and our stakeholders and let that feed back into their strategy. That was brilliant. And so, you know, because again, they could have done their own listening tours in and of themselves and took that thing on the road. You know, they could have invited folks just to come and talk with them, but they used us in a way that was an extension of what their intentions were, which I think brings credibility. It brings additional validity, not just to Goldman Sachs, but even to the organizations that they had working with them. And it just creates this cycle that is, again, for me, collaborative as opposed to transactional, and really making sure that they showed value in what it was that we brought as organizations. And so, I think that there were other partners that they worked with to help them identify who those organizations should be. So to me, that's how that partnership came to be. But I continue to just be appreciative for the ongoing support, not even just the work that was doing with Walker's Legacy, but honestly, the relationships that I formed personally with members of the Goldman Sachs team. I've got to accompany them out to Las Vegas. It was a summit. It was work. Okay, let's be clear. But it's just great to be able to continue to have those kind of opportunities.
That is awesome. Now, you spent a significant time talking about Walker Legacy, and you're coming in as an ally representing Walker Legacy. You should talk briefly about the work you're doing as the Senior VP of Social Responsibility for the Real Estate Investment Trust. You should give here a brief overview of that work as well.
I'm so excited. I'm on day 3 and I'm fired up. Let me tell you, so my new role now is the Senior Vice President of Social Responsibility and Global Initiatives for the National Association of Real Estate Investment Trust. And what is so powerful about this role, it's the first ever, first and foremost, but secondly, is that we are, next to the financial industry, finance and real estate. I mean, these are the strongest sectors in our economy where we can have the greatest amount of influence in terms of being disruptors and closing some of these racial and gender and social economic disparities. And so I'm so proud, so excited to be able to do that with real estate investment trusts across the world. And really, what does that look like to bring this collective approach in terms of where you're investing resources and bringing additional opportunities for those who are most impacted right there on the ground in our communities, real estate.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the new role.
Thank you.
So I want to, and this question is for all 3 of you. I am the youngest of 10. I have 5 sisters. As someone with 5 sisters, a wife, a daughter, I know women, in particular, Black women, have been the bedrock of our community. And yet, oftentimes, their voices are not heard. So, want to hear, as a female leader, do you think you have to lead differently than a man? And if yes, how does that look in terms of how you lead as a female leader?
I don't mind starting. I guess I would phrase it somewhat differently. It's less to me about leading as a female and more about finding your way to the person that you are, valuing that, pushing that to the forefront, and letting that define you. I mean, I've worked so frequently in my life, and still do really, with very strong, powerful men, that I have the capacity to speak to who I am in that setting is more the result of my having comfort with who I am. If I didn't have comfort with who I am, I would never be able to do that. So I try to encourage my colleagues and my students who are women to find that center first, to find value in that, and to find a way to be very unique. I remember, I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but the CEO of Goldman Sachs once invited me to go to an event with him and in Washington, and I agreed, and it was in January. It's very cold. And he was a very unique person. He had his own thoughts about what should be done about everything. And when we got to the event, because the president of the United States was there, we couldn't get close. We had to walk a certain distance. And so he informed me that I should remove my overcoat because he did not want to wait in a long line to get coats at the end of the evening. So I thought about that and I acceded to it, but then I regretted it. And so my way of dealing with this was to announce both at the event and subsequently at every opportunity I have, this example of the hubris that one can have because of power, because of gender, because of other factors, that you could say to someone, your comfort is far less important to me than my being able to get out of an event early. I've never let him forget that. I tell that story everywhere, all the time, and make him very uncomfortable with it. But that's what you have to do. Because if you're able to say, my comfort means as much as yours, my voice means as much as yours, my intellect is as present as yours. That's something you have to learn to do if you want to be a leader as a woman or as a man. That's sort of the way I think about it.
Did he ever apologize, Dr. Simmons?
Oh, he apologizes constantly. So even today, he's no longer CEO of Goldman Sachs, but when I talk to him, we laugh about it, because that's the other thing, is to find ways that you can assert your own humanity without making others feel less than who you are. And so what I always try to do is to make sure that even when I'm trying to give that lesson, that I'm still remembering the humanity of the other person and trying to protect that at the same time. So we're very good friends.
Nice. Dina, in addition to being at Goldman, you have had some pretty high profile jobs in government. So how have you led in those different situations?
Well, it's funny hearing Dr. Simmons' story because, you know, I'm often the only woman in the room. I know Dr. Simmons was always the only woman in the room, but whether it was the, you know, the Oval Office or the Goldman Sachs boardroom or in senior meetings, and that makes you a little bit aware, you're self-aware of that fact, and it makes you a little nervous because you feel that, you know, what you say might be listened to a little bit differently, scrutinized a little bit differently. And I want to just tell, because we have so many of your participants and alumni on this call, I want to just say something very personal that I've experienced, which is I think sometimes that fear holds you back. And I think we don't realize how much it's holding us back. And I think women in particular know when, you know, they're sitting with a bunch of men and they've got something to say, it's probably smarter than what the men are saying. They just get nervous that it will be heard as not as thoughtful. And I just had this experience recently with a couple of women that work for me. And we went to a meeting. It was a client meeting. And boy, were we prepared. You know, I worked for Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice for years, and you didn't show up to something unprepared. And she taught me that. She said, you're a woman, you have to prepare doubly hard. You never go into a meeting that you aren't as the most prepared person. Boy, we were prepared. We pitched, we did the best job, and we couldn't believe it. Two of our senior colleagues, male colleagues, really didn't know some of their stuff. But we all walked out together and they were high-fiving how great they did and patting themselves on the back. And one of the women had made a slight error in a calculation, a very slight error, but she was A++ otherwise. And she obsessed. She said, I can't believe I messed that up. I can't believe I messed that up. And I said, you see right there, that's what we do wrong. Those guys think they knocked it out of the park. They don't look back once, but we obsess about the thing I could have done better. If only this, if only that. And I'm looking backwards. that is time and emotional capital you don't get back. And so you learn the lessons, and sometimes you fail, and sometimes you could have done better, but that retroactive thinking holds women back more than anything. And that's what I often tell, my friends and people that I work with, wasted time and space there. You got to move forward and know that you learned from it. And finally, as painful as it is, I have only grown through failure and mistakes. You don't grow when you just win or succeed at something. And so learning those lessons, especially for women, and not letting those failures that come with life bring you down, but rather make sure you turn that into how you're going to grow even stronger. And I'll close by a 1 Million Black Women story that touched us all. We did a listening session on education, on early childhood education. We were honored to have Secretary Rice, Valerie Jarrett, and Steph Curry brought his mom. He surprised us, and he brought his mom, Sonia Curry, to participate. And she is amazing. You may know she's a principal in North Carolina. And we really listened to her. And one of the things that just struck us that she said over and over again was, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so the power of having women, people of color in the room, in those roles, I think for our children is amongst the most important thing that we can provide. And that's another reason we're so proud to partner with Dr. Simmons and Ayris and our 1 Million Black Women program, and now New Leaders.
Thank you, Dina. Ayris, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I echo, and I love both of those different perspectives. And I was like, yeah, I didn't think of that. But, I value this question, particularly now as I'm back into a white male dominated industry, right? Commercial real estate, and not just commercial real estate, but publicly traded, commercial real estate companies. And so I lead our CEO councils, and I've been thinking a lot about that. And I'm like, I'm finding myself, and I'm just being honest and vulnerable with you guys right now, right? Because it's like, it doesn't matter what level or title you achieve. And here I am 25 years into my career, and I still, all of a sudden, I'm kind of reverting back like, whoa, how I show up and how I articulate and how I'm putting my thoughts together, like all of these things are going to matter. And they always matter, but they matter in a different kind of way at a different level. And so as I think about, do I feel like I have to lead differently? I don't feel like I have to lead differently, because to Dr. Simmons' point, I am, even though I'm sitting here kind of like, at my core, I'm comfortable and confident in who I am, because I've had enough bumps along my career where I tried to adapt, where I tried to be something that I wasn't, thinking that it was going to get me further or get me the support and the buy-in, and it actually didn't. And so what I find is when I am my most authentic self, and when I really just think about who are good leaders that I've worked under. I've worked for Mayor Muriel Bowser. I was fortunate enough to be under Ayris Salcido and Alma Powell. When I think about how these women showed up regardless of race or their background, and I've had strong male, leaders too, I'm trying to find those best elements. I'm trying to model and adapt those regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of age. And so I say a good leader is a good leader. And so part of our responsibility in making sure that we are being perceived and received well, you got to be right. There's no need to just show up with all the ideas and trying to move things forward and nobody's willing to follow, is that you have to really read that room. You have to really, before you go in there and try to shake the room, that you have to know who your team is and what kind of culture you're trying to cultivate and instill. And then you have to model that and then hold yourself and others accountable. So, now, I don't think so much about as being a woman as it is just what is a good leader and what do I need, right? What do I look for when I'm in a leadership role, when someone shows up and someone is doing their job to support me.
Thank you all for those reflections. Final question, building on the whole leadership piece. As I shared at the beginning, we develop leaders. So we've got principals across the country. They are leading under challenging times. during unique times between a once-in-a-century pandemic, calls for racial justice, polarized country. So would love to hear from each of you. Given the moment in time we're in, what advice would you have for our leaders in terms of how to lead and drive outcomes for the students they're trying to serve? Dina, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Well, as I started, you don't devote your life to be an educator and a principal especially, and not deeply, deeply care about the students and frankly about the future of the country. So I just want to put it out there that what your principals are doing are so much more important than anything I have done in my life, because you are truly, investing in the next generation of our country. And I do think it's such a scary time. And Jean, I would argue it's a scary time in the world. There is so much upheaval globally in the world right now. I'm sorry, I keep dropping all my mentors, but yesterday I moderated a panel with Secretary Rice at a client conference, and we had an hour and I couldn't get through, Iran, Russia, the Middle East, all these crises. And at the very end, I got to one, which is the country of my birth is Egypt. I was born in Cairo, and Egypt is about to have a 100-year famine because 80% of their grain came from Ukraine. And so there is so much going on in the world. And I do think I see it in my own children, and I'm sure all the principals see it, that chaos, I think our children feel. I mean, I really do. And I think they see it on TV and they feel it. So first and foremost, I think when you're a leader, bringing a sense of calm, a sense of, it's going to be okay, because, we're going to try, like we always have, to pull together and have a values-based approach to what to do. I think honesty and vulnerability. I'm always amazed at when, people share vulnerabilities with me. That is not weakness, that is strength. And so many students, I think, look up to their principals and teachers, and they want to feel that. But I can only imagine when you're a principal today, it's a little bit lonely, would be my guess. And you have everybody in that school leaning on you, relying on you. You're the person that, has to figure out, how am I going to find the resources? This budget got cut. This child is, God forbid, being abused. And it comes to your desk. And I think that one of the things I've tried to do with teams that I've had is just share my fears, share my weaknesses, share my vulnerabilities, and then really say, can you jump in this with me and help me do it? Not try to look so unpenetrable or proud or I got this covered, because my team knows I often don't have it covered. But if we can do it together, we can really build something meaningful. So I would say, vulnerability and that team, really believing that you're a human, that you need help from them, and that their interventions may make all the difference in the world.
Thanks, Dina. Ayris?
Yeah, I love that, Dina. I love this so much. I was thinking about that calm piece and the vulnerability piece, right? And one of the things that I've focused a lot on over the last, I would say 2 years now, 20 years plus in, is, oh, this is going to sound terrible, but me, right? Like me. I was raised that, you kind of put your nose down and you go and you grind and you work hard and you accomplish things and you knock out goals and you get degrees and certifications and that's going to rise you up and that's going to advance you further. But was never really instructed, that along that journey, I need to make sure that I am good. And so I have really, I sincerely believe this, been a stronger, better leader. Even my career in these last few years is just like, because I'm so, and I hate to overuse intentional, deliberate, right? About making sure that I take some time for me and that I communicate that to my team. I would tell my team, like, y'all, guys, I'm honestly not my best self today, and I apologize for that. And because of that, I'm going to remove myself maybe from this meeting, or I'm going to take a couple hours. And then I started to see them do that, right? And so it's like, we don't have to put this facade or this mask on. And so if we are grinding ourselves down for the love of the work, which we're all in these roles, we're trying to make significant impact. At the end of the day, if we've been chipping away and helping others, but we're depriving and depleting ourselves, we're actually not doing any good. And so what I think is so beautiful about this moment, and I mean it, we are seeing where it's becoming okay, right? To talk about how we're feeling, or to say, whoa, it's just a lot, or to really re-examine how we're living our lives. And so we hear a lot around self-care and mental health and mental wellness. And I don't want it to become one of these things where it's like, oh my God, they're talking about that again. It's like, thank God, because we've never talked about it the way we talk about it now. And so I just, as I continue down my leadership journey, and as I, talk with my mentees and others, that's a new thing that I lead with so much more than I used to. I'm like, well, make sure you go to this program. And when you show up, it's like, make sure you've got your head right in a space and place that is also protective and helping you with your heart, the heart of the work that you're doing, but the heart and love for yourself as you're doing that work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Simmons, we will end with you.
Well, I love what Dina and Ayris have said. I mean, it's so important. As the oldest person on this call, I guess what I would say is that I've been through enough battles at this point that I've reached a kind of methodology to lead from my best place, let's say, in especially in moments of crisis. I was president of Brown when 9/11 occurred, and everybody was telling me that we needed to shut down and we needed to stop classes. There were many students who had relatives in New York, and they didn't know where they were and so forth. And I remember thinking that I need to lead from where I am, because I'm not so different from people that I cannot draw on what I feel to be in the best position to help others. And so my response was, no, that's exactly the wrong thing to do. I will not have them go back to their rooms and be alone, wondering what might happen. And as difficult as it was, I stood on the campus and faced the students and talked to them about the reality of the tragedy that we were all experiencing together. So I prepared for that by trying to remember a mantra that I made to myself some time ago. And that is, as a leader, to remember how important it is to be clear. Now, educators love to talk, and they love imagery, and they love language, but sometimes that's our enemy, because people can be confused by what we're saying. And so I encourage people to first work to be clear about their own values, about what matters most to them, and to learn to speak to that in as powerful a way as they can. And so when George Floyd was murdered, my first task was to sit down and write something to my students, because as young people, they wanted to be in the streets. They wanted guidance on how to react to something like that. And I knew I needed to be clear. I knew I needed to be as strong as I could be. I knew I needed to find something in my own experience that spoke to what they were dealing with. And that's what I did. So I sat down and I wrote a letter to them. And that letter actually ended up being circulated all over the country. But I wrote a letter that explained how I felt about the circumstances, what I thought they should be thinking about in that moment as young people, and what action I thought we should take in order to feel that we are addressing a very an age-old problem of discrimination. And so my mantra generally is number one, be clear. Number two, spend some time with yourself so that you know how to be clear. A lot of people talk a lot because they have not done that most essential work. And that most essential work for me has been, as long as I have been president, to have a slot on my calendar for thinking time and clarity time. Because things crowd in on you. There are so many things to deal with, as Gina says. How can you, in the midst of all of that, have a clear message when there are 100 things running through your head? To me, there's only one way to do that, and I have to schedule that time for myself, just as I schedule time for everything else that I have to do. And in that time, I actually write. It may be short, it may be long, but in writing that, I gain greater clarity by saying, here are the things that matter to me. These are my reflections on what is occurring. This is where I think we should be headed. And as soon as I get that written, the next thing when I come out and I have to speak to my team, or if I have to speak to donors, if I have to speak to anybody, I can speak very simply and very clearly about what it is that matters in that particular moment. And then the final thing I would say is optimism is invaluable. And I often say to teachers and principals, if you dare get up one day and go to work and you're not feeling optimistic, learn to be an actor. Because the last thing in the world children need to see is a downtrodden leader who is glum about everything in the world. And so when I walk across the campus and encounter students, the one thing I want them to see in me is that I am hopeful about the future. I'm hopeful about their future. And so I try to practice those things.
Wow.
Thank God we didn't go in before her, Ayris. That was so powerful.
Mic drop.
Thank you. On that note, I will pass it over to my colleague, Michelle, but in all seriousness, want to thank all three of you for spending time with our alumni to share the wisdom and to engage in this conversation. Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you so much.
Yes, I echo the same sentiments, and I just took a ton of notes about thinking about being vulnerable and making sure to focus on me. Sometimes we don't think about that, and then, clarity and taking time to think. I don't think we create enough of that. Really excited to be able to have the opportunity for some of our alum to be able to ask some questions. So if our panel could stay on for just a couple of more minutes. Jenny has been looking through the questions and answers. We only have time for a couple. And you might be able to see some of the questions in the questions and answer chat. So please feel free if you want to jot a note in there, that would be great. But Jenny, can you pick a couple of questions to share?
Yes, absolutely. So unfortunately, many women have to choose between their personal goals and their professional goals. And some alumni were wondering if you could speak to how you balance your personal goals, your family responsibilities with your professional responsibilities, and also how your organizations encourage women to stay in leadership roles and being able to strike this balance.
I'll jump in first, I guess, and I'll say kind of a dramatic statement up front, but it's what I really believe. I think that we let a lot of women in particular down by painting this beautiful picture of work-life balance or anything that's called that. I think it'd be much better to be very honest that juggling a personal life and a family with your professional career is really hard. And I had a partner here at the firm, a wonderful woman, once say to me, if I try to be an A+ worker at Goldman every week and an A+ mom, it's just not going to happen. So to be very honest with you, Dina, I'm trying to get to like B B- on both scores. So if it's like, I know that I cannot miss this event with my, significant other or my child, I don't miss it. But in that couple of days, I may not be the best worker at Goldman Sachs. And on the other hand, when I know there's something at work that I absolutely cannot miss, and it's going to take a little bit away from my kids, I got to do it that way. And so I got to find that right average, because while I have both sets of commitments in my life, trying to be perfect just is not going to happen. And so that honesty, I think, would help, as we talk about that. And then the other thing I would just say is, it takes a while before, at least in my case, my kids appreciated what I did. But when I then brought them to events, I'll never forget, they've been on every listening session for 1 million Black women. They've felt a real sense of pride. And so I know every one of you, as I said earlier, are truly changing lives. And so making sure the people in your life, your family, your friends are part of it and know what you're doing, I think it gives them a sense of investment in what you're doing and understanding when you're not able to be around. And institutions matter. I know it's a lot harder for principals and teachers because you're on the front lines. And so flexible schedules don't really exist. I mean, the students are there, the teachers are there, and I know the teachers feel that way. But where there can be a little bit of understandable flexibility and respect that people's lives are just not perfect and they have emergencies come up, I think you end up having a much longer tenure of your team if you are more understanding and they're not just so terrified if they have to miss a day or two for work or a health emergency or whatever it is.
Great, thank you. Another question that was asked that is certainly related is how to help leaders in the nonprofit industry specifically proactively think about their own self-care. This person is specifically interested in maybe there are ways to make sabbaticals, leadership coaching sort of standard. And if you could speak a little bit to your thoughts on that.
I mean, a couple things there. I mean, you're the leader, so you get to make the decision, right? And if it's a situation where you may need to get the board approval, I mean, it's just doing the research, I think, and pitching it and presenting it to the board. But that was one of the great things that, as I kind of take my role in leadership, very seriously. And when I'm hearing feedback from the team that they want to see, half-day Fridays, so that they can get some time to tend to other things that are happening in their lives and have some personal time, or you institute that over maybe, summer breaks, or, figuring out additional ways to build in, more time around holidays. I mean, there are things that changing the format of your meetings. I think about how our staff meetings used to run. And then at the top of those meetings, we really built in time so that we could have, icebreakers, and so that we can have moments of like affirmation and you have the opportunity, to institute things when you're in a leadership role or a position of influence, even as a teacher, right? I know that there's a lot of, my best friend who just left today to go back to Abu Dhabi is an educator. And so I know that there are certain parameters that you have to stay within, but I think that there's still flexibility in terms of how you're delivering things or how you're showing up or how you're creating this kind of environment within your classroom. And so I just say back to not being afraid. If you're hearing of things that folks want to try out, or if you have practices or new initiatives that you want to launch that you can do that don't require board approval, but maybe it does require board approval, do the research and present it. And you could always pilot, and you can always sunset, but I think you'll be rewarded and appreciated for the effort.
Thank you so much to our panel for this great conversation. I see in the question and answers that our alum are really taking down copious notes about what you shared. And I know we have, and we'll be sharing this with our alum as quickly as possible so they can also be able to hear it. We just want to thank you again for taking the time to speak to us and sharing all the information. We actually will have a wonderful presentation kind of going over these questions also from another member of the 1 Million Black Women Council, Rosalind Brewer will also be speaking. But just two little notes as we close up this panel is one, we just dropped in the chat a blog that actually talks to taking up space and what to do for your staff. I know our alum always wants resources and loves to read. And so we have that in the chat right now for you to be able to see. And we are excited again to announce our partnership with 1 Million Black Women and the executive coaching they will be providing to our alums. So I just want to give a round of applause. And so if you are a Black woman leader and would like to have wonderful leaders come and converse with you about your leadership and want to have someone to talk through the things that are going on, we have just dropped in the chat the application that we have open, because again, this partnership is not only providing these type of opportunities to all of our alum, but also we will be giving executive coaching from execs at Goldman Sachs and some of their other partners to our Black women leaders. So thank you again for this partnership. We're so proud to be able to provide this to our alum, again, connecting back to the goals of new leaders, as Jean said, providing resources throughout your career. So I know people are thinking, what is next? And so I will jump to our video. Rosalind Brewer could not be here, but she actually wanted to still be able to share her voice and to congratulate our leaders in going into the next school year. So I'll just do a quick bio about Rosalind Brewer, who joined the Walgreens Boots Alliance as the Chief Executive Officer in March 2021. She's also the director of the Walgreens Boots Alliance. Ms. Brewer most recently served as the Chief Operating Officer and Group President at Starbucks from October 2017 to January 2021. Prior to Starbucks, she served as President and Chief Executive Officer of Sam's Club, a membership-only retail warehouse in the division of Walmart. Some of you also might know her as currently the chairperson and board of trustees for Spelman College, where she did her undergraduate work. So I do know some of our alum are from Spelman as well. Ms. Brewer also is the board member of Village MD, World Business Chicago, and the Business Roundtable, and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Without further ado, we will play the video from the CEO of Walgreens, Rosalind Brewer.
Hello. I'm sorry that I couldn't join you live today, but I'm really glad that I'm here and able to share a few thoughts with you and answer a few questions. We know that Black women play a critical role in their families, their communities, and the economy. Yet, they face the worst health, education, and employment outcomes, a reality that has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. The pandemic also emphasized the importance of mental health and well-being, to focus not only on yourself, but your surrounding community. The continued impact of COVID-19 has shown health disparities in Black communities specifically, and we've been working diligently at Walgreens to address that. I'm excited to be on the 1 Million Black Women Advisory Council to help drive this initiative, and it is important that we continue to partner with Black women-led and Black women-serving organizations and create space for leaders to engage in opportunities that may not have been exposed to on their own. To date, we've had a strong focus on education, from early childhood education to higher education. We have heard many times on our listening tour that we need to invest in teachers to help provide quality education and, in some cases, act as mentors to underrepresented students of all ages. This is why I'm thrilled we're partnering with new leaders to join in their amazing work to recruit and train principals of color, which in turn delivers better outcomes for students of color. One thing I learned as a leader during the pandemic is just how important it is to reach out to my teammates and my peers and the folks who work in my organization. Many people were working remotely and some were coming into the office. So I had to really learn, what's my new leadership style? How do I take up space and give space for conversations and create courageous conversations and really get to the grounding of what's going on in people's lives so then we can all contribute together as a team. So it wasn't real easy during the pandemic to find my place and my space to get my voice heard. One thing I knew for sure is that my voice was needed. There were so many people who were working in isolation, so many people who had issues affecting them that were unique to their household, to their environment, to their community. It was a very high anxiety time, and so the one thing I found about my voice was frequency. Be clear, be consistent, be persistent, listen well, and try to really think about how I wanted to plant myself as a leader in a new work environment. One of the things I recall when I was first in corporate America that I had trouble finding my own voice. I was that quiet person sitting in the back of the room waiting for someone to recognize me because I never felt like my voice was important or my opinion was important. Quite honestly, I heard so many others repeat my statements and get accolades for it, accolades that I never have gotten. So I reflect on that and make sure that when I see that person that looks like they're staring out in space, when I'm maybe delivering a message and I'm head of the room and looking out into an audience, you know, I look into the eyes of those folks that looked like me when I was scared and didn't have the confidence to speak up. So I try to find ways to really center myself as a speaker, as a leader, to make sure that I am connecting with that person who needs to know that I see them, I hear them, and I am interested in what they have to say. One of my passion projects is the work I get to do at Spelman College. I've been chairing the board now for roughly about 10 years, but even before that, I've always been an active alum at the college and on the campus. I've been fortunate that the college is located in Atlanta, Georgia, a place where I spent most of my time during my career and raised my kids there. So I've been able to, you know, physically visit the campus and be engaged with the faculty and be engaged with the alums, but also just to see those young Black women graduate every year and to mentor them and spend time with them, and just, they keep me current and relevant. And it's probably some of the best time I spend when I'm not in my day job, and it's a great passion of mine. You know, it's very important as a leader when you're starting off the year to set a clear vision for those who hopefully will follow your lead. And as I can imagine, your students, your faculty, and your staff are those that need your leadership. And for me as a leader, I always kick off my year with something motivational, aspirational, something that makes people feel like I need to grow in order to achieve that, right? It shouldn't be something that they did last year, something that they feel is easy. Believe it or not, people love a great challenge. And they love to know that there's people counting on them, working alongside them with a common mission and vision. And then there's a leader at the top who's watching, paying attention, and living the values of what they're trying to achieve. So it's an exciting time always for me at the beginning of the year. I look forward to it. Every time we flip a year, it's a chance to start all over again and make great things happen. So good luck to you.
Again, thankful for our panel, and thank you, Jean, for moderating a great panel. Just want to say thank you for everyone that had some point in making this all happen. There are many hands in this, and I'm just so grateful. So big shout out to our partners at Goldman Sachs, especially Bianca and Jessica for working through this, and Michael on our team, and then Sonia, our chief of staff, for being able to identify Ayris, which was also wonderful. And then to my team for all the behind the scenes work that we have done, and again, to this great panel that just spoke. So I know that we'll be moving on into our next section of this work, which is really focus on the resources that we provide all of you. Yes, our alum gets a tremendous amount of resources of being a part of New Leaders. And we just wanted to take a few moments before we have our comedy show to just let you know what's up for the year ahead. Next up is Michera Brooks, and she is the lead for the partnerships at Leadership for Educational Equity. She began a professional career as a high school classroom teacher through Teach for America before attending law school at NYU. She worked as an advocate in New York City at Advocates for Children, and then serving as counsel for Achievement First, one of the largest and highest performing charter networks in the country. Then she transitioned over to Lee to work for connecting alumni of impactful organizations to each other and Lee's leadership development resources and support. We are excited to partner with Lee and be able to talk to you about the resources that they will provide. Turning it over to Michera.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Incredibly excited and grateful to be here with all of you all today and to have gotten to hear that fantastic panel. I'm not quite sure why I'm showing up in some sort of weird black and white, but I am just really building on so much of what was shared is something I'm really excited to do. And so, you know, New Leaders, as Michelle has mentioned, as you all have heard over and over and over again, is just so invested in you all, in your continued growth and development and impact as alumni of the organization. And so the partnership with Lee is an organization that partners with transformational nonprofits exclusively to work with their alumni. So all we do is alumni support and impact work. And you see our partners represented here. And I think that the way I like to describe Lee is it's really partnership for transformation. And what that means is it's partnership at multiple levels with organizations, with communities, and with individuals. And it's grounded in equity, access, and community. And to say a little bit more about that and just describe some of the ways that Lee works more specifically. So we offer a host of programming that are kind of centered in three purposes. One is about leadership development and skills. One is about professional networking, and one is focused on career. And what's kind of true across the board about all of these things is I heard, you know, come out in some of the panel, I was taking a lot of copious notes as well, but that, you know, Ayris mentioned the idea of partnership being about coming to the table with some value and collaboratively creating bigger impact. And I really think that describes Lee, and the value that Lee brings to the table is a ton of access to information that is not necessarily commonly known. So you are a leader in schools, and there's a lot of different educational policies that are impacting you and what happens in your school and what you're doing for kids and communities. But how do you get to build knowledge about how to access the people making those decisions, about how you yourself can exist and show up in spaces where those decisions are being made? That access isn't necessarily commonly shared. That information isn't necessarily commonly known. We want to disrupt that at Lee. So we want to be able, we have online workshops, so asynchronous in your own time. We run trainings and fellowship programs that are about providing information about how do you write an op-ed in your local newspaper? How do you understand the cadence of policy decisions and when councils are meeting and which meetings may be highest impact to show up at and lend your voice? How do elected leadership cycles work, and where are the spaces and ways to integrate things that are priority for your communities, your kids, your life, your work into those spaces? Those are all topics that Lee sessions and programming and fellowships and things like that cover. So just really excited to support the impact and amplify the impact of whatever you're passionate about. I think another thing that, you know, Dr. Simmons mentioned was finding your way to the person that you are and how you want to show up. And I think Lee is here to be in tandem on that journey. So we do a lot of one-to-one meetings and coaching available to everyone. Just as a New Leaders alumni, everyone who's a New Leaders alum can access coaching from Lee, and all of this is at absolutely no cost to you all. So hopefully, you know, one of the big reasons I know that New Leaders entered into this partnership was just hearing from you all about the kinds of supports and services that would be of interest. And so hopefully this is, and if so, I know some of you have already registered. If you haven't registered, you see the link on your screen, and I think it's going to be dropped into the chat as well. So if you haven't yet signed up to access these free supports and services, resources, please do. And if you have, then log into the platform and peruse what's available and see what upcoming live and online programming we have. Some things are 3 days, some are every evening for, every Wednesday evening for 6 weeks. There really is, it's really very customized based on where you are and what you're interested in. So thank you so much for welcoming me into this space, and just really excited to be in partnership and support each and every one of you. So we'll hand it back to you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Michera. It's been great working with you. And so if you're interested in LEAD, please feel free to register and get these free resources. I would like to introduce you to the Fab Five. Yes, we are your alumni team. We're here to support you. So send us emails, reach out to us, ask us any questions. We have Ashley Martin. She is the Director of Alumni Programming. If you're interested in exploring new schools model, she is the person for you. We'll be talking about that later. Nicole Warner is our Senior Director of Alumni Programming. She is focused on all the just-in-time workshops or the series of workshops that you might be interested in. That's who you turn to if you have questions. Dorota Glossowitz is our Senior Manager of Operations. So our newsletter or our Facebook post, everything behind the scenes and in front is Dorota. So reach out if you have any questions about that. And last but not least is our Dr. Jenny Merkin. She really focuses on our strategic partnerships. So if you're in a senior level of an organization and you want executive coaching or leadership team development or strategic advising, reach out to us because we actually provide those services at this time. Our theory of action, just quickly again, you will see us speak to this consistently. If you're a new leader alum, you know we believe in a theory of action. And so our job here at the Alumni Impact is to deepen the impact of your current position and also develop you over time to grow into the careers that you want to achieve the new leaders mission, which is always to support the children who need us the most to get the best results that they can have. And so we provide it in 3 different ways: development. And so we create the best in class professional development. So at a session like today and a variety of other types of ways that we have it throughout the year, sustaining you, bringing you and convening you for network meetings, also partnering with different organizations like Lee to sustain you in this great work. And then the last is amplifying your voice, connecting you with different organizations, make sure to spotlight you across the educational landscape. So we just had a group that presented to the House of Representatives last Friday. We just had someone in Ed Week posted last week. We just came out with a new program book was highlighting some of our alums. So these are the 3 ways that your alumni team is here to support you. Reach out to us so that we can. What we heard from you from the last year's alumni survey was a couple of things, and you will see on the next slide how we took your feedback and implemented it for the upcoming year. So you are going to look in your email in a couple of minutes, and you will see the alumni survey. We literally read every single comment, we review everything that you said, and then we take that data and create opportunities for you all. So the impact that we had last year was learning how to be a good facilitator in meetings, how to coach teacher, how to focus on equitable education. Those are based on sessions we provided last year. And then these are the things that you wanted: networking opportunities, you will hear some more about that, professional development, communities of practice, and resource library. And so Mitch and I are going to tag team on this, but again, based on the feedback that you have given us, we have done a couple of things. We will be having some more networking opportunities in person. And so we did one in New York. We'll be coming to the South and hopefully to the West as well to be able to do some networking opportunities in person. We have Exploring New Schools model that we will speak to. People are always looking for different positions. We actually have an opportunity board to be able to do that. You all want some money? Guess what? We have an opportunity for that, the Roberts Awards. We'll be speaking on that. And then the ongoing learning is a variety of ways. And one thing that we're really excited about to speak to is our school resource library that's coming down. But I would love for Mitch to talk about some of our learning experiences that we also provide.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. I'll I'll talk a little bit about one that I helped facilitate. And I'll say the thing that I've always appreciated most about new leaders is that they are here to develop us and also here to connect us to each other. And so I co-facilitate a group, a community of practice for principal supervisors. And the idea is to connect folks who often feel isolated, like principals do, and often like teachers do, to connect them and to continue to contribute to their growth and development. And so once a month for 90 minutes, we gather over Zoom. We have topics relevant to their current work. We do problem solving based off of real issues that they're facing, and we support each other because, like the panelists were saying, Dina talked about the isolation in leadership, and Ayris was talking about the importance of taking care of ourselves. Just being connected to one another is a caring act. And so that's just one of the many sort of programs that New Leaders offers, and that's one that I happen to be supporting. So I'm sure Michelle can tell us about some other great offerings that are happening.
Yes, and we're going to be sharing some of those communities of practices as well. One of the things you asked for is, oh, I remember I got an article about leading leadership teams. Where's that article? So guess what? You actually have a platform that you can go into yourself and find different resources for you, just based on either a topic you can do a search for, you can watch a webinar. So there's a variety of ways that you can get resources for you to be able to use with your leadership teams or with your teachers or with your cabinet, but also to be able to identify great workshops that we're going to be having, or connect on the opportunity board to see job openings, or find another alum. You might be like, I'm going to San Francisco. Where's some alum that are there? Can I connect with them? You actually have an alumni directory. We just revamped this with our tech team. Shout out to Rachel for helping us. And this is our brand new New Leaders Network Hub, which you can jot and tap into and learn about different things. Next we have up is our school resource library. One of the things that we got feedback is, are there other gender-based schools? Are there social justice schools? Are there, and people always ask us this question. And so guess what? We need your help to build this. So school leaders can select, or you can nominate schools to be a part of our school resource library. It will be based on our transformational leadership framework and a couple of different ways that we look at schools. But if you want to showcase a practice in your school or something that you're most proud of, look for that application in August so that you could be featured in our school resource library. But also, we will be given the Golden Bell Award. So some of you remember when we got that bell at the end of our foundations, that either 6 or 4 weeks that we stayed in one of the cities. We will be selecting leaders based on your practices and on a criteria to give out the Golden Bell Award. And this is based on your leadership and all the great things that you have done. And we just want to be able to recognize you and also give you a small monetary donation to your school. Next up is exploring new schools models. As noted, we have an application. So if you're thinking about how can I revitalize my school, I want to think differently about my school, or I'm going to a new school and I want to transform it, or I want to open a new school, think about joining our Exploring New Schools model, which is a year-long series where we have virtual and some in-person communities of practice, but also we provide personalized coaching. So you get a one-on-one coach to be able to support you and help you. If you're a new leader alum, you actually get this for free as well. Applications open today. Next up, we have the Roberts Award. I'm so happy that Lisa Calicchia is here to be able to speak to being a Roberts Award winner, but we are trying to give you all money, like literally. I'm trying to give you between $5,000 to $25,000, and you can spend it any way that you want. Those applications are coming in September, but we wanted you to hear from an award winner like what the application was and the impact. Lisa?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so excited. I'm clicking on all the links. I'm like, let me focus. So yes, I am a new leader alumni from Cohort, Baltimore, Maryland in 2018, so of the grade 8. But the Roberts Award, when anything from new leaders come, I look at everything. I look at every resource. And when the Roberts Award came, I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And our school actually won the $25,000, and I'm using it for social and emotional learning. My 10 years out the classroom, I've been in curriculum and instructions, but somehow I'm in the leadership role over the Culture and Climate Committee. So with the money, I'm ordering enough supplies and materials to have 6 calming rooms. As an assistant principal and the support team, we will be able to allow scholars when they're having anxiety attacks and panic attacks, or if there's some behavioral issues or concerns, or they just need a place to vent. These calming rooms are going to allow scholars to be able to have a place where they can go and it doesn't have to be a crisis. Like, they can have a calming place. They can learn how to conflict a resolution, problem solving. So it'll be fully staffed with me teaching our staff how to use SEL, social emotional learning, and multi-tier support systems. But because of the Roberts Award, we'll be able to put the furniture in the room. Also, with the monies, about $7,000 of that money will be dedicated to an online platform. So being able to order resources for our scholars and staff to use, because there are so many different resources out there. And since our scholars like to be on a laptop, I have been able to find social and emotional applications that we can purchase for 1 year or 2 year that will help them have a fun way of learning social and emotional skills. So I'm very excited for all the materials that come in. With the pandemic, some materials are coming in behind, but with the support of my principal and of course the Roberts Award, our scholars will definitely have calming places where they can go to outside of the classroom, but not necessarily in my office or principal's office, but a place where we can de-escalate, because we don't want to suspend scholars. We really want to give them a restorative place to do the healing and the work that they can feel comfortable to be able to let us know what's going on so we can support them even more.
And as you can hear, this is why she was selected. The impact on children and thinking about our kids, especially during this time, matters. Was the application hard to fill out, Lisa?
No, it wasn't hard. And I would also like to say, like, as a new leaders, like being out the classroom and being a part of new leaders, not only has new leaders helped me in the classroom, but I'm also an author. And so new leaders is also, I look at the work that I've did, and I have my binders from new leaders. Like, it's helping me to become a business owner of my own and using those skills to try to bring the work that I do with our Scout, because when they leave us, they still need supports and services. And so I'm doing the work of how can I create a bridge to help them in the afternoon with their parents, but also, bringing the two together, what they do at home. Hearing everything that I had to hear over this past school year, I was like, well, what else can I do? So bringing the skills from new leaders is helping me to be a leader in the school and outside of the school. But it was a very easy application, very easy. Not, I think it was like 1 page, but it was very easy. At first I was freaking out. I was like, a grant? I don't know how to write grant, but it really is a template just to plug in what you need. The only research I had to do was to sit down and think about what I wanted to do as far as the calming rooms and what all I wanted to put in the calming rooms, what resources, what furniture and things like that. But it was very easy. And I won. We won.
Exactly. Easy, breezy, and you got some cash, $25,000. So people apply for the Roberts Awards. As you can see, we have given over $2 million to 89 leaders. We got this money, like, get it. Next up, we have another opportunities. We have a ton of things coming up this year that we would love for you all to participate in. We have communities of practice. We have 2 for this year. We'll have for the chief academic officers or people who lead education throughout their district or with their organization. We will have a community of practice for you all. We will continue our principal supervisors. So if you oversee principals, we have a group just for you that meets once a month so you can talk through things. We will have an equity series coming down the pike as well. That will be about 6 months. We have just-in-time workshops, different affinity groups. You can be on a board. Shout out to our alumni board and our ambassadors who probably text message you to be on today. We also provide school leadership coaching. We know that our alum loved our leadership coaching when they were in the program. Guess what? You can get those resources currently. It's on our website. And we will have an Exploring New Schools model open house coming up next month. I am rushing through things, but we are in the 21st century. So you're like, what are all these things? Guess what? Pull up your phone, scan this SQR code, and guess what? You have all the things that we just talked about in our link tree. We will also be sending out another resource with all the things that you heard today. So don't worry if you didn't capture something. We got you 2 ways, and then we will also have our newsletter next month. Next up, alumni survey. So I know that you guys are so excited to fill out this alumni survey. Yes, please do it. This is how we know how to provide you services and supports. It literally takes a couple of minutes. If you move jobs, you just update that for us so that we can make sure to acknowledge the work that you're doing and provide the right services. In addition, you tell us how we did this year and give us feedback, but also tell us the things that you want to be connected to. Do you want to be in publications? Do you want to work on policy work? Those things we need to hear from you. So please check your inbox as we're talking and you're listening to the comedy show in a few minutes. You can laugh and fill out the survey. Like, come on now. Like, it should be fun to be able to listen to the comedy show and fill out our alumni survey that we do. And we're gonna give you a gift. Come on, help us out here. Next up, I am turning it over to see if there are any quick questions that people might have. You could jot that over in the chat. But I'm also turning it over to my colleague, Nicole Warner, who will do some thank yous and quick follow-ups.
Yeah, so you guys have heard a lot today, and I just want to thank you for being an engaged audience. We appreciate all that you're doing. We appreciate all of our panelists who share with us really deep knowledge. I was sitting here just like furiously taking notes, chatting with people, texting with people with all of the great information, totally inspired. And so I just want to thank you all for being present with us today, because part of leadership is about pouring into yourself. And so you being here today helps you to be a better leader, whether that is a teacher leader, a principal, a school leader, a nonprofit leader, if you're leading in that space, a district leader. Pouring into yourself helps you to lead your communities better. And that is our job. Our job is to support you with what you need, what you desire, and what you want. And so we just want to thank you for being an alum. As we shared the poll question that will give us an opportunity to let us know, do you like this type of event once a year? This is our 2nd annual Alumni Town Hall. We are hoping that pretty soon in the next possibly few years, we'll be in person. But is it something that you enjoy? Did you gain value from it? You can simply respond to that poll question that's listing there. And did you learn something? That's our goal, to be able to make sure that all of our events, big or small, long or short, are meaningful to you as our alum. We want to remind you that the portal, if you haven't been there in a while, the summertime is a great time to do a little exploration. I know that a lot of times people use that for planning purposes. So if you're looking for something to share with your team, we have some of our resources and videos that are out there. So please take a look at the network online portal. The 2nd Wednesday of every month, we send out our new leaders notes. That's short for our newsletter. We use that as an opportunity to amplify our new leaders in terms of new positions. We see our new leaders in the news all the time, but also to share resources with you. So as Lisa shared, she's an author, but she's also among other authors within our community. And so we want to make sure that we're sharing that resource with you so that you can continue to learn and share that with your colleagues and your team members. The reason that we plan programs and events is all because of the feedback that we receive from you. And one way to share that feedback with us is in our annual survey. So as Michelle has already shared, this is a space for you to say, hey, I'm a nonprofit leader. This is what I need. And we take a look at that and we're able to adjust that programming and information for you. If you did not receive your annual survey, we already received a couple of emails coming in. We'll make sure that we'll take a look at that and respond to that to make sure that we are giving you all of the resources that you need and make sure that you have the right access. The purpose of our time together today was to make sure that we are keeping you informed. As a New Leaders alum, you have lifetime access, right? So it is in terms of membership to different coaching, different partnerships, different opportunities, it is a lifetime partnership. So we just don't give up on everyone after foundations and after the programs. We continue to build your leadership. Also, the purpose for today was just to keep you connected. New leaders, I've always been really inspired by the level of innovation and the level of really authentic work of reflection and thinking about how can we make ourselves even better. And so the purpose for today was to reconnect you to some of that work and hopefully to some of our partners to inspire you to get more connected and engaged. If you haven't been engaged, we have multiple ways to do that for you. And we're hoping that you'll continue to be a part of our community. In New Leaders, we always say that iron sharpens iron. And so we shine because of you and because of you being in the community. And lastly, our goal was to inspire you. It has been an incredibly challenging year, but I love what Dr. Simmons shared in terms of thinking about being optimistic and being hopeful and practicing that. And we want to make sure that we are practicing that with ourselves and one another and encouraging you to utilize that as a way of inspiration as well, which is why we have a comedian today, right? Because we got to have a little laughter after some heavy information and talking about important topics. We're hoping that you'll stick around. We have an educator, comedian. She really needs no introduction. And she is, we're super excited that she's spending time with us today and is gonna just lighten up the day and give us a little inspiration, hope, and probably crack us up all at the same time. So I wanna just thank everyone for joining us. And I wanna invite you to laugh a little, have a little fun as we bring on board our comedian, GL Douglas.
So thank you so much. My name is GL Douglas. Yes, I'm a comedian, but I am also an elementary educator as well. So I get it. I get it. Shout out to all of us for surviving, first of all, a pandemic year, and then surviving a year after the pandemic.
Coming to the stage is GL Douglas.
Come and take your medicine today. Come and laugh your cares away with your girl GL. 'Cause just a few minutes and I promise your sides will ache. 'Cause that girl's too much to take. That's just your girl GL.
Came out to have a good time, laugh the night away, no more stress. GL saved the day. So sit back, relax, and let her entertain you. New queen of comedy, you gon' need a tissue. Laughing not an issue, she gonna hold it down. From state to state, your city or town. Coming to a screen near you, she one of a kind with the signature line, 1 pound at a time.
Girl, I lost her mind. GL, 1 pound at a time. Funny, but she's clean. GL, you'll see what I mean. That girl's too much to take. Come and laugh your cares away.
You guys, I enjoyed y'all. Hats off to all the leaders. Listen, please contact me. I travel. I just did a huge comedy show, which was called Class Dismissed, and it was all teachers who were actually comedians. We sold out the Stress Factory, which is a huge club here in Jersey. And if you guys ever need some comic relief for any of your professional developments, hit me up. My name is GL Douglas. You can follow me on social media at gldouglas.com. God bless y'all. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you, GL Douglas. And we're so happy that you were able to bring us some comic relief. I know many a times that the things that you shared about teaching over Zoom literally did happen. I participated in some of those conversations with parents as well. So you were able to make me chuckle about those days that were truly painful at the moment, but now we can laugh about it. Again, her information will be in our resource that we'll be sending tomorrow. I want to say thank you to all of our alum. I know that we're at time. Sorry, we did go over a little bit, but we are grateful that you've all attended, and have a great rest of your evening.